Namaste. Welcome back, beautiful souls. This is the tarot card of the year reading for the Emperor. And I am just smiling because choosing the Robin Wood tarot for this reading really takes me back to my foundation. And so if this is your card for 2026, if this is your number for 2026, I suggest that you select a deck that you feel immensely comfortable with, a deck that feels like indeed it is foundational. It's not a deck that I pick up very often anymore, but it felt important to make it part of this series. Welcome, Clevis and Jamie. Thank you for joining me. And so that's why Robin Wood is here for this particular reading. Now I'm thinking about the energy of the Emperor and the wheel. And I think this could go in one of two directions. One, that the Emperor is quite satisfied where they are and resisting the energy of the turning of the wheel. Or that the turning of the wheel indeed feels like expansion. There's a lot of different ways, we can look at this. This is Aries. It's new. It's beginning of the zodiacal calendar. There is strong martial energy, and 2, 3, 4 of Wands are the minors that are associated here. The Queen of Wands stands strong, fully capable of this expansion, really. And so I'm going to shuffle up and see what the cards have to say. I think that the Emperor is also fueled by, empowered by the energy of the Empress. And we certainly had a strong, very strong reading for the Empress card in the last reading. Welcome, Mary Beth. This is January 11th, 2026, a reading for the Emperor. If your number 4 is, if your number is 4 for 2026, perhaps this also is a reading for those of you that have Sun in Aries in your natal chart. There's lots of reasons that this reading may connect and be important to you at this time. And as always, I ask this message be in the highest for the greatest good, and that no harm be done. So be it. And, I really think that the Emperor responds well to Jupiter, to the energy of the wheel in that regard. Unless, of course, in some way feels threatened by this power. Maybe here. Interesting that 10 of Wands is in the top of the pile for the Wands pile. I was thinking that it would be really interesting if the Emperor had been here, showing a kind of a story between the Emperor and the Empress, but it is not. It is not. And I think this is unlikely. No, it's here. Okay, so when we started this when I started this investigation, these readings, the first couple of majors were in the water pile, and I was thinking that we would have an abundance of them there. Not that the energy of the wheel is water. It feels a lot more fiery with Jupiter being the planet. However, in the energy of the wheel, and a big lesson being one of learning to flow, to be in the energy of change, it felt important that those first couple of majors were indeed there. And that's where the wheel was in the pile of water, to the best of my recognition. And this is where the Emperor card is. So the Emperor is in the watery feminine energy. The Emperor is in the same place that the wheel was. The Emperor is wanting to move, wanting to change. So this feels more expansive and willing, certainly. Kind of the way that Robin has drawn this card, I really don't like in this. It's one of the cards, very few that I don't like in this deck. It's difficult. It's really difficult to look at. And it's on the bottom of the pile. Quite a challenging card in that, if you think of, so all fives are challenges that we move through. This one feels, especially the way that she wrote about it, we really need to choose our words carefully, our words and our actions. It's so important that they align, and when they don't, we can get into tremendous danger. We want to move through this, right? We want to learn this lesson and go on. And it feels kind of uncomfortable that an archetype as significant as the Emperor is still dealing with this. So is this being reflected back to you in some way, I wonder? Because it's very close and it's going to be part of the story. So, yeah. Chariot is first. And I believe Robin calls this the Nana Nana Boo Boo card, which seems rather childish. So that's kind of what I'm getting at. Like, is there something in your life that is, hello, Lydianne, welcome. Is there something being reflected back through a coworker, through a child, that is really sort of challenging you in this way? It feels very, very irksome. Top of the pile, third card, surrender. Okay, so that's, I'm just going to work with these three cards, then I'll go on. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I like that the Chariot is here. It really supports, it's your card of the year. Wonderful. You have a PB of sound on your phone. I'm not sure what that means. My sound settings should be correct. Okay, the Chariot here, I like this because it feels almost like a bit of a delegation that you are sending your charioteer forth. Now, your charioteer, of course, is you, but in a way it feels like a testing of the waters. There's something that you're not going forth all, and I'm just looking at this card because I know we have some confounding information here, but you are going forward cautiously. So you want to be mindful of how you go forward. And I love that. I like that. Um, and I don't know what card would. So, for example, if there was King of Wands here, or maybe even Knight of Swords, this feels different. This feels more balanced. It's also, so there's an important thing that's going on here with the Ten of Swords and the Chariot. So the Chariot is lunar, and I feel like it harmonizes. So in the Empress reading, we had a lot of harmonizing elements. And in this way, the Chariot feels harmonizing to the strength of the Emperor. Yes, quite literally, it's a charioteer going forth, somebody who is employed by the Emperor. But in a more esoteric way, this is, I feel like you're sending out an aspect of yourself. You're sending out a more naive version of yourself to test some waters. And I don't know why I'm feeling like that. Now, the connection between the Chariot and the Ten of Swords, and I think this is really important in readings, is that you allow the cards to kind of dance and weave together. Is the Ten of Swords is the final decan of Gemini. This is where the Queen of Cups comes in and begins the story of Cancer. And there is a surrender here, and it's lovely to see this surrender, especially this surrender following the confrontation of the Five of Swords. It feels like you just get out of the gate and then something triggers you. And you realize, okay, I really need to let that go. You can also acknowledge, not only is the 10 a 10 in a wheel year, so that's nice, significant float energy of completion, fresh starts and all of that. There's a little hiccup as you start on your journey, but all is well. And you are able to carry on. So what is it that you want to expand? I think that's a really good question. What do you want to expand? And when I think of Mars and I think of that energy, Mars is across from Jupiter on the tree of life. So that is important to know. And I feel like the spiritual quest is here, something really important to you. So I want to write that down. What do I want to expand? What do I want to expand into? Those sorts of questions might be really helpful in understanding why this is your card for 2026. Okay, lots of swords. Well, that's lovely having the small change card there. However, we have this dance of swords over here in the West, followed by the Ace of Cups. So you have the 5, the 10, and the 9 of Swords. The 9 and the 10 of Swords can be very, very noisy. They can represent a lot that is going on in your mind and an inability to discern because you can't sleep. There's so much mental chatter. Your tinnitus is at an all-time high. You can't find the space between the notes. And the cheekiness, the annoyance of the 5 of Swords just makes things worse. Part of your challenge here is to find a clear path. And when I am confronted by so many swords, I think one of the most important things to practice is listening. And if meditation is not your thing, you can simply practice listening. There is a meditation, pre-meditation activity. It's a relaxation meditation activity that I teach called Yoga Nidra. And before we can dial down and lie in relaxation, I guide the students into a practice where we fully pay attention to the noise. And I ask the students to take their awareness into the distance. What is the most distant sound you can hear? To be fully aware of it, and then scan from sound to sound. And then bring your awareness closer. What is outside this room? And be aware of the sounds and come into this room, listening to the noise of the refrigerator, the clock, the breathing of the dog at your feet. And then come closer still into your physical body and listen to your own digestive sounds. And for some people, this can, without guidance, without breath, without a teacher, this can make you feel kind of mental, right? It's very, very difficult to get to sleep. The monkey mind gets out of control. However, if you do this with awareness and with breath, what happens is the more you pay attention, the less you begin to hear. And you find the space between the sounds and you begin to relax. This kind of feels like where you are, like your tension is high, your monkey mind is at an all-time high. And you're sending this chariot out feeling quite frazzled. So is that a good thing? Well, I said earlier it felt like you were testing the waters and you weren't going all gung-ho. Testing the waters, Cancer, fiery martial energy, lunar energy. It felt like a good balance. But you're really not sure about all of this. And I think these 3 cards here are really an invitation into your finding ways to dial down, finding ways to dial it back. Because unless you do that, you won't know how to manage the Ace of Cups, which is such a beautiful gift. Such a beautiful gift. And to receive the Ace of Cups is to, and with this card, the Chariot, and the Ace of Cups, I think the potential here is to expand into something pretty special. And to understand that this change, so this particular card here, 2 of Pentacles, decanically, first decan of the sign that we are in, shows up at winter solstice. It's at this place of, this is where the Oak King and the Holly King change roles. It's an important shifting energy. And this is often called the little change card, while the wheel is the big change card. So you're certainly shifting energy, and I can feel some tingles in I know I've hit something when I feel these tingles in my scalp. Like, I almost want to stop here because I need you to understand how important the calming of the mind is before you go further with something else. Because if you go forward as you are, it's not going to make sense, and it's not going to be as positively expansive as it could be if you didn't pay more attention to this. And think about this. Maybe pull out your guidebook from the Landscapes of the Abyss, the Marielle Tarot, and look at what Marie White wrote about the chariot and the white horse and the black horse, and how this is about harmonizing of the mind. And that might be a really good resource for you, right? You also have the 2 that's reflected directly above in those 2 pentacles. So if we go forward, leading from one side and not taking the other, it's like you're being dragged along and not feeling in balance in any way. And perhaps part of this imbalance is you haven't acknowledged what it is you truly want, where it is you truly want to go, what it is you truly feel, what it is what is your balm, what is the balm that you need, the healing that you need to feel better, to move better. So there's a lot of preparation to be done here before you see any answers, any work. And who would ever think that the Emperor, having an Emperor card as your theme for the year is about learning to still the mind, to find the space between the noise. Because if you don't, it feels like that rock that's rolling out of control downhill, and it's just going to get to the bottom and crash into bits and pieces. Nine of Wands, Page of Swords, Ace, another ace. Good card. Okay. Looking this way, facing this way, facing this way, looking this way, facing this way. Okay, so we're all in sync. We're all in sync, so that is a good thing. I think that is an unusual direction for the Nine of Wands to be looking, but it's really nice. And often the nines are looking in the other direction, looking to the left, reflecting, but this particular 9 is looking to the right, looking towards that Page of Swords, looking toward the Ace of Pentacles, looking forward. And it almost looks like that white in the clouds is an angelic energy, an angelic presence. It's taken a lot to get where you are. And so acknowledge that. This is Ace of Swords. This feels like a consolidation of this energy, like you have indeed found the space between the noise. This is an Ace of Cups. This is 2 receptive aces, and this Page of Swords feels like the Ace of Swords. It's a truth, a word to carry forward. And with that word, then you are better able to know what the gift of this Ace of Pentacles is going to look like. That Ace of Pentacles, I think, is really important for the Emperor. It is a sign of a building, like a restructuring and an opportunity to indeed to start again. But there's a bit of an examination, not a bit, quite a bit of examination that is necessary, self-examination that is necessary before we get there. And in all good conscience, I would say that this is going to take you through Taurus season 2027. If, because, and I say that because Taurus, the aces are their strongest over the fixed signs of that element. And so fixed Earth is Taurus. But it just seems way too soon to have this all figured out by then. And I don't necessarily like to do prediction. However, one good thing here, maybe that is through Taurus season, through that time of year, it's starting to get a little warmer. Maybe that is a better time for you'll see some progress. Not that I want to use measurement for this, but in sleeping better and calming down and finding some space and taking some space, because you're able to actually venture outside and take in more of nature. That Page of Swords feels like you've found that shift, that bit of correction. She's a really bright card in this deck. And you know how often Pages of Swords look a little reckless? Well, this one feels... She's got the sword in both hands. And it has a vibrant quality to it. There's a truth to it. And it illuminates, it really enhances the ace that you see there, that Ace of Pentacles. Your 10th card is the Magician. Okay, so another one. And I like that it comes, this oneness comes a little bit later. And so my advice for you, and I want you to remember that I feel like a broken record. This is not necessarily January, February, and this is November, December. I don't mean that. I just mean that because time is funny that way, the way that it all kind of weaves together. And really all of this is now, and all of this is January, and all of this is October. And yet in this particular reading, it just feels like the preparation is so important. And sometimes all we need to do is acknowledge it, right? To acknowledge that we could do a better job in de-stressing. I love the Chariot and the Magician sort of reflecting each other. It feels like they're drawing in their resources, supporting you to expand. And this feels like that is the theme for your 2026. Not so much one of creating a new foundation, but of expansion. You have two aces. You have the first and seventh major arcanums going forward. Yeah? Do you understand what I'm saying here? There's really simple things that you can do, and they all take discipline, like going to bed earlier, about learning how to dial it down before you go to bed, turning off electronics in the early evening, all kinds of things that just don't feel quite normal in this day and age. Yeah. I'm just breathing for you. And yet it's quite optimistic, right? It's quite optimistic. So seek out help. And there's no suggestion here of a counselor or an advisor. It feels like you have all of this within. But I think saying all that I've said, it would be wonderful to have someone to support you through this. Okay. Did I turn this card over? Because, your advisor is here. And you might not like it in the form of the Pope. But the Hierophant can represent an advisor on all kinds of different shapes and forms. Okay. I look forward to your feedback, and take some time to digest this and then come back and leave me a message below. Thank you. Namaste.